should we introduce One Health approach into the academic structure of veterinary medicine too?
Well, we're already doing it here at City University of Hong Kong. We do One Health courses for vet students because actually we realized the veterinary profession can be very diverse. First, you could be a vet in your practice, but you could be a vet in an animal park or working for your government in food inspections. And so the new vets needs to go broader, and they need also to understand that actually, as we say, veterinarians are like medical children doctors, is that usually your animals are not saying anything. So you have to go through the parents for the children or through the owners for the dogs and cats and the animals and have an indirect conversation. And vets need to understand that also you are dealing with animals, you need also to deal with humans, because at one stage you need to discuss the treatment with the owners or the farm managers or whoever, or you need to get the authorization from the political spectrum of the government and the accreditation agencies. And so in a way, we are doing that because we want the vets to be able to understand the human component in their work. And here, for instance, we see in Hong Kong that due to the COVID, the relationship between the owners and their pets has changed during the COVID. At the beginning, people started to lose their job or unfortunately die, and then there was nobody to look after the pets, and these pets starting to be abandoned by the high numbers. And then suddenly when we had quarantine coming in, then people realized, well, now I can't go out, I'm very lonely and I want to have pets to comfort me and to be with me. And so we had a pendulum of we want the pets, we don't want the pets, I don't have the money to look after them, I'm socially excluded, I want to have now the pets to help me socially. And so the One Health take into consideration this triangle again of understanding the humans, if you want to understand the animals and their pets and their farm animals and so on and so forth. And so we have also One Health Research Center here where we train our vet students to make sure that they understand that it's not just the animals as a vet, it's now you have a complex One Health environment around you and they need to be ready for that. So yes, and I hope, and I know the medical schools are doing the same on the other side, because zoonosis is of interest to both parties, as the medical practitioners and the veterinarians, because sometimes we have the same zoonotic problems on both sides of the patient spectrum. And so I think we can learn from each other. We can learn from the medics and we can learn from the veterinarians about some diseases and what control we have. And interestingly, some vector-borne diseases are very often human orientated or they are more animal orientated. And we see that we can help different professions because some professions have been more researching on some of these problems and these diseases, and that will help the other professions to catch up thanks to what others have done. So the One Health is a perfect exemption. Sorry.
I'm fully agreeing with you, and at least in Europe, I see that this cooperation between vets and medical doctors should be much more increased. It's also because maybe in Europe, I'm a tropicalist, so we have a teaching in parasitology, but our students, they don't, and that's not a good, or they don't have a good teaching. So I already I checked now 27 years ago, I thought that fasciola hepatica should be visible by ultrasonography.
All right.
Also in human beings.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I went to our vets and we went and we scanned the cow. And so I learned how it looks like.
Yeah.
And later I went to Cuba and we saw the fasciola in the gallbladders of people by ultrasound. And I can always only underscore the cooperation between veterinary medicine, biology, biologists also, and medicine is it's very fruitful.
Yeah, it's interesting because the vet students or the medic student, they think they are going to learn in a matter of hours, all the parasites or the bacteria or the viruses. And at the end, you think we are just going to introduce you to the problem, but it's going to be a lifelong learning. You are going to see cases during your career. And we explain to our vet students, actually, you're not going to see everything during the course. You are going, maybe, as you said, you're going to work in different countries, and then suddenly you are going to see other diseases and other problems. But at least when you have the One Health approach and they work together, they can learn from each other. And I think that will save time and resources because, as you said, there is maybe no point to have a scanner in all the vet school and medical school if you can work with between the universities in the same cities, and in this case, let's join forces and resources and maybe use the money somewhere else. And the two medics and vet schools work on the same scanner or diagnostic methodology, and then they use the money for something else, and then we all win in this kind of battle. So yes, I would support your idea of working and teaching together.
A tragic example of a lady who died. Let's say she was brought to the hospital, and it was in the summertime, and they forgot her dog.
Yeah.
So the poor dog died of thirst because she was in the hospital and nobody cared about the dog.
Yeah.
So that's also one of these issues.
Yeah. So let's look after them.
And that last question is it, let's just say, when you were talking about the wind, we can even expand, is this just only One Health, or should we go also, or is it good or not good also to look for planetary health, or is that too far-fetched to be concrete?
We can see vector-borne diseases are very global. We have diseases that are exactly the same in different countries because these ticks are traveling through migratory birds, and people in Africa, Asia, and Europe will have some of the common diseases because of these migrating birds. So we need to work together to make sure we understand when they are arriving, when they are departing, what kind of host they are using to migrate. Can we do something about that? It's difficult to control migrating birds, but there are maybe ways to make sure that the ticks do not attach well, or maybe we do something about the nesting birds before they migrate and treat and do things to make sure they don't carry the ticks to other countries. So I think we need to have a global approach now, because the problem we have here in Hong Kong could be the same in many other countries, and we need to work together on that one.
If I remember how West Nile was introduced, West Nile virus to the US, now we have West Nile virus endemic also in Germany, and that's a new thing. No, it was somewhere in Italy, in France, but not in Germany, not yet. And now we have that.
We saw the West Nile viruses moving from North Africa to the Southern Europe. And as you said, it started to colonize Italy and France and Spain. And then it moved north to France and Switzerland. And now, as you said, Germany. And let's wait when it's going to go further north and will invade the rest of Europe. So we need also to work with colleagues in the north of Europe to make sure they are ready for that and how they are going to prevent that to happen.
And when we talk about climate, there's one very interesting observation. Napoleon, with his troops, he went to Egypt. And the doctors were observing and complaining that they had hematuria. So at that time, Theodore Billards was not yet there. So, but they have got schistosomiasis. And not a few of these soldiers certainly went back to Corsica. But at those times, nobody observed any hematuria among the soldiers or the families or whatsoever. That means there is something going on, because now we have a cycle also in Corsica, and the Bolinas are there. So
I mean, it's interesting you're talking about Napoleon, because he lost some battles, not because of the enemies, but at one stage he arrived in Egypt, and at one stage he lost some battles because of the fleas, and the fleas were transmitted the Black Plague. And unfortunately for him, a lot of people died, not because they were fighting, but because of vector-borne diseases. So we are going
also because of the smallpox control. He didn't go. The Prussians did a better smallpox control than Napoleon's troops. But no, it was, my idea was especially for the climate, because which other course could you say could be that they didn't introduce schistosomiasis at those times already.
Yeah.
So
So if the triangle is not there and we find a way to block the disease, the vector, or the host, for whatever reason, if we break the triangle, then at one stage we will prevent the dissemination of these diseases. So that was your first question about research, and maybe the last about how we are going to deal with that. There are so many aspects we can do to make sure they are not transmitted anymore.
So they have absolutely to employ us. There's no chance.
Yes, they are still winning a bit. So let's see how it goes. Maybe we should have another interview in 10 years, 20 years, and see if we have a different conversation.
We can be sure that there will be a new disease, no problem.
Sure.
A new epidemic or whatsoever.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay.